The phrase classical guitar study probably doesn't inspire a lot of excitement in you, and I can understand why that is because it's got that horrible word study in it. But what a study in music really should be is a great piece of music that stands on its own, but that also sneaks in some great technique exercise and focuses on a certain problem or some kind of technique hurdle that we might need to overcome. So as you're learning classical guitar, whether you're working one-on-one with a teacher or you're working by yourself out of a book, you're going to come across a bunch of tried and true classical guitar studies that have been passed down through the ages that really are great, and there's so many of them. But in this video, I want to show you the 5 classical guitar studies that I keep coming back to, not just for my own technique maintenance, but also for teaching. Now, these aren't necessarily that hard. I'm going to go from easy to harder, but even the hardest one here is not that mind-blowingly hard as some studies really can be. But I think you really get a lot out of these, so let's check it out, my top 5 classical guitar studies. Number 5 is a study that I do almost every time I pick the guitar up. Short and sweet, and it's working on a really essential thing for the right hand, and that is the double arpeggio, where we go thumb, I'm using a rest stroke, you don't have to, index, middle, ring, middle, index. So basically we're going to the floor and back, and the entire study is nothing but that double arpeggio. Now this one is titled in books, it's not that common, not as much as some of the other ones you'll see in this video, but you'll see it called Allegro, but thousands of songs are called Allegro because back in the day, these granddaddies of classical guitar, Fernando Sor, Matteo Carcassi, Mauro Giuliani, Dionisio Aguado, all these guys that you're going to see in the classical guitar books, wrote tons of studies, and they basically just didn't give it a title. They just had like 10 studies, and number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those later got compiled into other editions, so that's why it's so hard, and I'm not going to mention here most of the time that this is study number whatever from opus this or that, because all those numbers really change, and every time I try to say the right number, somebody tells me that I'm wrong. But anyway, this one I've been playing since I was like 16 from this old book, World's Favorite Classical Guitar Solos, but I've seen it in other books also called Allegro. But it's not the Allegro that you normally see in all those classical guitar books, but this one really is great. Let's check it out right here, a snippet from Allegro by Giuliani. What I like so much about that study is he has us doing an essential technique for the right hand over and over again as we move these chords with the left hand. So I said it's right hand intensive, all these studies, but definitely there's going to be some challenges in the left hand, as there should be. We could call this thumb, index, middle, ring, P-I-M-A. We could call that forward arpeggio. And the reverse arpeggio, as it's often called, would be thumb, ring, middle, index. But this kind of gets the best of both worlds. It does both of them, and it really kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone in that way. P-I-M-A-M-I. And we're in the key of E minor here, working through a bunch of chords. There's some pretty cool things happening here music theory-wise, or pretty predictable things, but E7 resolving to A minor. That was a classic secondary dominant, E7 to A minor. And so we're going... It's always on these 4 strings. He goes here on the 6th string, and so a great little test for our thumb to jump over the string, even if you do a rest stroke, especially if you do a rest stroke. It causes some extra tension to have to jump over again. So you could do a free stroke and then dive over to that 4th string, but he's going to go 6th string, 4th string, 4th, 4th, 6th, 4th. And we can use that open E string, low E string, to move to the next chord. He split the measure up right there. Here's our A minor, E minor. What chord is this? Pop quiz. That is F sharp 7, resolving to B7, so that's the 5 of the 5. This is classic theory stuff. Now I lied a minute ago, he goes to the middle strings right here. So there's a little melody happening inside the chord, so nice. Really encourage you to do that one. I would say out of all these studies, that one is the most approachable. You might not think so by looking at it because I'm traveling all over the neck there. And it also forces you to really be on your fingertips so we don't bang into the other strings and block them like that. It's a really great one. One of the Allegros by Giuliani. Now, if you crack open just about any classical guitar method book, you're going to see this next study. And confusingly, this is also by Giuliani and also called Allegro. But this is the more common one, or the more familiar one, called Allegro by Giuliani. And what I like about this one and why it's so good, I mean, there's a reason why it's in every classical guitar method, because there's a real benefit happening to your right and your left hand. But we have a first arpeggio, like before in the previous one, we had the same exact arpeggio all the way through, and that's a really important thing when you're working on any technique. Just drill away at that technique only over and over. But here we have an arpeggio pattern that is right off the bat a staggered thing. So you notice how we're going thumb, index, middle, back to the index. Already that's weird, right? He's kind of backtracking on us. And then the ring finger, and then index, middle. So already we have an arpeggio that's a little more staggered, a little more challenging, but then he goes to a totally different thing in the next measure. And now this thumb index thing is such a Spanish guitar thing. Or Malagueña. Okay, so he's mixing those together, so we have a real nice little combo here of arpeggios. The good thing about this, or the easy part of it, is that we're in the key of A minor, so everything's going to stay down here. So on all predictable chords, A minor, D minor, E7, and back to A minor for the most part. But another great thing about this study is that he switches gears at the very end and throws at you nothing but a repeated forward arpeggio, and not the reverse, not the double arpeggio, but thumb, index, middle, ring. So this is an opportunity at the end of this study to do a bunch of repeated full planting, where we take all of our fingers and we got the block chord here, thumb, everything's set up. We're on the strings already, and then we peel them off as we go. Then I go to an E7 chord, partially. So our goal is to get really fast at that, not too fast. But he is not content with just doing that. He's going to throw in another monkey wrench, and that is this: A minor, E, A minor, a true E7 with your pinky here on a D note every other time. So he's really kind of testing you. Okay, we're getting a little bit harder as we go along here. Now this next one is from one of my favorite composers of all these. I call them granddaddies of classical guitar, and that's Matteo Carcassi. Just some really great, just awesome stuff. I don't know why I like him so much more than the other composers here. I mean, they're all great, right? But something about his tunes are just, I don't know, just strike me as being much more cool. I don't know. This is another song I've been playing quite a long time, since I was 16 probably, just like the other Allegro. Also found it, first time I ever saw it was in that same book, but I've seen it in many, many other classical guitar books after that. And what's great about this is what I mentioned in the last one, the last Allegro by Giuliani, was we are combining things together. Here, he's every measure giving you a different arpeggio pattern. And the best part of it is he gets us playing tremolo right off the bat. Not just any tremolo, not a tremolo where we can cheat on the high E string, but tremolo on an interior string, which is much, much harder. Check this one out. This one is often just called Study in A minor by Matteo Carcassi. So much great stuff there. As you can see, things are definitely getting harder. A little bit like the Allegro by Giuliani, where we have those keeping a finger down, in this case A, also A in the Carcassi study, and moving these bass notes around. A lot of bass movement happening. And I love this ending. Now, there's the whole B section. I just played the A section. This is a great little example of a bunch of different techniques just happening at the same time, or at least one right after the other. We're doing a full plant here, so we can be ready for this forward arpeggio. Thumb, index, middle, ring. Now I'm going to switch over to picado technique, index and middle rest stroke, but I don't want the open A string to ring out and overpower that melody, so I'm going to kill it and do some string dampening there. So kind of three things happening. We have a full plant, we do our forward arpeggio, thumb, index, middle, ring. I'm going to do some string dampening here with my thumb, switch over to rest strokes. Very dramatic ending, nice. The next part of it, like so many of these classical guitar songs, goes from minor to major, the relative major C, and he continues with the same idea here with tremolo. A lot of things happening there, so much movement. Forward arpeggio, and now we have this. This is pretty cool. This is like something that you would do, a flashy thing you would do to impress people, and he's doing it here. Switching your thumb over to this. We have that pedal tone thing like Leyenda and Malagueña. Such a great one. I really encourage you to work your way up to playing that study in A minor by Carcassi. If you want to learn more about the right way to use your right hand with the 3 most important techniques we ever use for nylon string guitar, and a study that I made just for you to get these 3 essential techniques down in very little time, check out my workshop at the link below this video. This next study is the most modern of all the 5 studies here that I'm talking about, and you can tell right off the bat that it's modern just by the chord that he's playing. An A major with a D sharp in it, a sharp 11, got a Lydian sound there, which is my favorite of all those modes. Really cool sound, but really the benefit, so that's kind of cool on its own, very mysterious and very ethereal sounding chords. But the benefit of this exercise is the wacky arpeggio that's happening here. Something really interesting here where we're playing repeated 16th notes and we begin and end with a thumb, so it makes us have to double up our thumb really quick, which is a great exercise, and there's different strategies for doing that. And the arpeggio pattern, when it concerns the other fingers, index, middle, and ring, has us changing between string sets within the same pattern, which we haven't seen yet. So check this one out. This is Brouwer's Estudio Sencillo number 6. That means simple study number 6. Ha ha ha. It's not that simple. But for us, it's number 2 of my top 5 classical guitar studies. Really cool when he switches arpeggios towards the end of the study and changes time signatures on us just to get more of a workout, I think, for the right hand. This one was similar, I think, to the first Allegro that we saw by Giuliani, in that we're moving the chord shapes with one pattern all around the neck. Well, he keeps this pattern going as he cycles through these different chords. A7, sharp 11, pretty nice. There's an A major with a B there, got that 9th in there. Then he makes it a minor chord. That's interesting, a little modal interchange there. That's a really nice one. Chromatic movement in the bass at the sus chord. And then he switches to a completely different arpeggio. Not that completely different, very, very much in the same vein. But the arpeggio here, and a lot of these the benefit can be had by not even playing the chords and just getting the arpeggio down. This is a weird one. So thumb, ring, middle, index. Okay, so it's 2 of these AMIs in a row, like we would have in a romanza. AMI, AMI, very valuable motion. See, I switched strings right there. So instead of playing the ring finger on the first string, I switch here and go ring, middle, index there. And that really can mess you up. We have to move our hand just a little bit. And it's, of course, we're doing nothing but 16th notes, so it's pretty quick. Really great and interesting pattern. And a lot of people would say that this is a weirder direction, going thumb, ring, middle, index. Remember, that's the reverse arpeggio. Thumb, ring, middle, index. A lot of people say it's easier to go thumb, index, middle, ring. I don't think that that's not true for me. I like to go reverse. It feels better to me. I don't know why. I can also do it this way, but something feels a little more out of control to my hand when I do that. Anyway, so that direction is probably great exercise for most people. And we have to go thumb, thumb at the end. The last note and the first note are the same thumb note on the same string. But just like the Giuliani Allegro, the first one we saw, the double arpeggio study, we have an open string to kind of get us to the next chord. So that's another kind of not by accident thing that he's programming in there, giving you a chance to move. And like I said, these chords are great. You should really learn this one, Estudio Sencillo No. 6 by Brouwer. Okay, this last one is definitely harder, definitely longer, and it got to be in the pantheon of classical guitar studies. I think it's the best one of all time. Not because it's super musical, but it's just really got a lot of tasty things there and things that we need to be able to do in the right and the left hand. And this one is from one of the greatest composers for the nylon string guitar of all time. Now what's happening here is very similar to the Brouwer study and the first Giuliani study, where we're going to be moving through a bunch of different chords and one static pattern. Although he breaks it up in the middle and really tries to mess with you, and he messes with us pretty good there. And I'll show you that one in a minute. And notice how this arpeggio pattern, which I think is one of the greatest arpeggio patterns of all time, you'll never see it in anything else, but it's a great, great exercise. And it's a fingerstyle pattern. I think whether you play fingerstyle or classical guitar or whatever, that every fingerstyle, as a broad term, guitarist should know is definitely the pattern from this, which is Etude No. 1 by Villa-Lobos. Now that is a great one for so many reasons, but let's look at the pattern first. I'm playing an E minor here in a weird way with my ring and my pinky, just so I can get to the next chord. So he's got a lot of wild stuff. Look at that. You'll probably never play a chord like this. This is like a D7 over C, but he's got the open E string too, so it's a very funky chord. Totally fits into the key of E minor though. But the pattern here is we're skipping strings. We're going 6 to the 4 to the 5 to the 3, and he continues that and then goes in reverse. So one of the benefits of this arpeggio pattern is that it gives us a real good workout for one of our worst fingers of all, which is the ring finger. The weakest of all of these. We could say this one is weakest, as I say in so many of these videos. The pinky is obviously weaker, but we don't even use it, right? Unless we're doing rasgueados, then we're not really going to be using that because the pinky is so weak. So truly, the ring finger is really our weakest finger because it's one that we actually use. And we're going to go thumb, index, middle, index, ring, middle, ring. So right there in the middle of the pattern, we have to do this exchange of ring to middle, which feels horrible. But we need to do that. That's really like, that's the medicine you have to take for all of our right hand fingerstyle stuff. And then he continues the idea of staggering, going back. And the interesting thing, I think, maybe you don't agree, but going backwards is he's still staggering. It just doesn't appear that he is. He's doing it because we're tending to see it as going from one string here to the floor, but he's actually staggering in the other direction, if that makes any sense. So just like the first Allegro, we're switching chords here. I'm going to go through a bunch of chords. E minor, E7, there's a 5 of the 5. Giuliani did that, right? In another key? No, it's the same key of E minor. We're going from E minor to E major just so we can get to A. All traditional stuff, although he's going to get a little bit wackier. He's more modern than all these guys except for Brouwer. I have a diminished chord here. E minor. So there's so many chords in the song. One of the great values you can get out of this study is knowing these chords. So I really encourage you, I'm going to do a whole video just on this. I haven't done it yet. Here are the chords. E minor, this D7 thing, E minor, B7 over F sharp, E minor over G. I won't keep going, but E minor over G sharp. But I've seen so many players, especially flamenco players, use that study to work on a bunch of other things for the right hand. Like I've seen this before where they go, playing this study, playing this arpeggio with just your thumb. How crazy is that? Great workout for your thumb. By the way, every single chord repeats twice. I'm just, for brevity's sake, I'm switching to the next chord. Right, we could do, because this arpeggio encompasses all the strings, we can do almost anything we want. We could work on our rumba patterns. Tremolo. I'm playing flamenco tremolo. Do the double arpeggio. So you can use that as a template for working on so many great things on the right hand. That's what I use it for quite a bit. Now what he does here, he keeps doing that crazy pattern, which, like I said, you're never going to see it in anything else, but it's such a good pattern and it's going to make you such a better player. Is he goes through all these chords and he goes through this crazy diminished thing. Not really crazy, but he's moving diminished chord down one fret. He did that a lot in these studies and his preludes, where he'll take a shape and just kind of move it all over the place. So that's actually, when you have the pattern down, that's not too, doesn't take too much brain power. We're just moving that shape. He gets all the way down here to E minor. Pattern changes just a little bit there, and now he's going to do this. So he's broken the arpeggio thing. So he wasn't content with giving you a crazy pattern for the right hand and making you move hopefully fluidly through all the different chords. Then he has to throw in, at the same speed you're going, these hammer-ons. Almost a very gypsy jazz thing where we're doing this lower neighbor thing. It's just an E minor chord all the way down. He's just going one note below the note in the chord to the note in the chord. Just a triad. E, G, and B. E minor chord. I'm doing rest strokes, that makes it harder. It's the same three notes, hammering on to each of those. And then he lands down on this chord. Check it out, it's F sharp 7. That's the 5 of the 5, secondary dominant that we saw in the very first one of these studies, the first Allegro by Giuliani. And now he's back to the pattern. And then he goes, of course, F sharp 7 wants to go to B7. Then he's going to go E minor, C sharp 7 with an open B. So nasty and nice. A good kind of nasty. And then he's got arpeggios at the end, and he's going to land on this. This is hard, so hard to finger this in the left hand. So it's not just right hand for this study. Got to know this one. Maybe you're not ready for it yet, but let's strive to know this, at least very slowly, be able to play this all the way through. And he's going to land on a little E major chord there. So that's kind of a Renaissance kind of idea there. A Picardy third, if you've heard of that. We're expecting a minor chord, but we have that major chord. A little almost back in the Renaissance, they're getting ready for blues that will happen centuries later, right? Such a great one. Etude Study number 1 by Villa-Lobos. So those are my top 5 classical guitar studies. So much great work there for you. Check those out. Now, each and every one of these is in my tab collection, as I said, and definitely check out my workshop where we work on the way that you really should be moving from each of your knuckle joints and the 3 most important techniques we ever could use for nylon string in the right hand. And the Villa-Lobos study, as I said, is something every fingerstyle guitarist should know. So check it out in this video where I drill down just a little bit deeper on that and give you a little bonus of his study number 2.